super excited to bring on our next guest. We have visual artist Vita Kari.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. What's up,
Hi.
Vita? Where are you right now, Vita?
I'm sitting in my car like a nerd. Yeah, because I got trapped in traffic, and I'm in LA somewhere.
I don't understand.
Hopefully you pulled over into like a parking lot. You're like on
I'm in
the
a
side of
neighborhood.
405. Okay.
You're currently driving right now.
Right.
Vita, I want to talk about this. Like, LA traffic, why has it not got better? Like, why is it still as crazy as it is? Adam and I have, Brayden goes out to LA all the time. Adam and I lived in LA for a couple of months, and, I have family and stuff out there. It is still the worst traffic I've ever experienced in my life, and it goes on forever. There's a place where you're going that's only 10 minutes away, should be. It takes you almost an hour to get there. Why do you think that is?
So back when I was growing up, my dad used to say that it would take 20 minutes to get anywhere.
Yes.
That felt like a lie because it would also take a really long time. But I'm gonna be honest, I know that LA gets a really bad rap for traffic, but I go to other cities, and when I go to New York, I'll take an Uber. It takes like 45 minutes to get anywhere in an Uber.
You're right.
It takes a long
It
time to
does.
go on the subway. If I go to Atlanta, and I love Atlanta, and I love New York, by the way, I love these other cities. It's so much fun to visit.
Yeah.
But also, you're sitting in traffic for like 45 minutes. So I feel like people just like to discredit LA because it's best city.
I like that you said
It
that.
does get a lot of hate. It does like anytime I ever hear anything about that, it's always LA.
I like that you said that because it feels like LA gets that because they get it, the Hollywood rep. I feel like anytime it's something going, people in, we talk a lot on this podcast about politics when celebrities are talking politics, and they're like, they shouldn't, celebrities and influencers shouldn't be talking about this because they have a different life than the rest of us. We're all from Texas here at the podcast, and I'm just like, so people that are humans can't have an opinion because they live in Hollywood? That doesn't make any sense. And because they're influencers, like, do you feel like you have gotten any kickback because you are a visual artist, you are an influencer, you're on TikTok? Do you feel like you got a kickback because you maybe want to talk about certain things and people have said you didn't have the right to do so?
Is this a question for me? Like, do I feel like that?
Yeah.
I feel like. Also, I just want to say Houston, bad traffic. But by the way, also,
oh
sorry,
my God,
just throwing it out there. Also, sorry, didn't mean to just throw that out there. But I feel like do I get a kickback for talking about certain things? I feel like honestly, I try to stay in my lane with what I talk about. I do feel really motivated for social change, especially in ways that I can see personally, like especially like things like gentrification. I feel really motivated to talk about, especially in Los Angeles, where I've seen a lot of that in my life. I had my own art space, and that was really focused on like kind of like it wasn't exclusive to the queer community, but I think being queer just somehow like you wake up one day and you're just like surrounded by a bunch of queer people also, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that's the community I'm in. So like it kind of was like for queer people, by queer people in Los Angeles, and it wasn't exclusive to being from LA or, to others in that community or anything, but it kind of felt like it was for us, right? And that was a space I didn't have growing up. So I think like a lot of ultimately, like I try to really like focus on making meaningful change where I see it, and only really speaking on things I feel like I truly feel I can speak on. And it's okay just to admit that you don't know enough about something. Like I don't know that much about barely anything, but the things I do know about, I try to speak up about.
Sure.
That's amazing. So Vita, let's take a step back. So obviously you're like hot in the press. You've been covered by Forbes, ArtNet, USA Today, Gay Times. You were just at Art Basel. Like, where did it all start at the beginning of your little life that you understood that you had something to say through visual art, through social storytelling? What made you who you are today?
Wow, that's such a great question. I feel like I'm a middle child, and when you have hella siblings and you're a middle child, you're gonna wanna, speak up in the outside world, maybe. And so you're gonna like, wanna bring things to light potentially. I feel like, of course, struggling with mental health and, those type of things definitely made me want to maybe share what I wish, I like to do things like, what do I wish somebody could have said to me when I was younger? What do I wish, like, what are the spaces I wish I had seen, and trying to like make those things happen, or, things like that. And I mean, I feel very privileged that this is the path that I've been given. So I just try to really like utilize that, make it into reality. But I've always wanted to be an artist. I've always wanted to like really also too and market, you know, myself as an artist. Being creative, there's so many
Right.
people more talented and more vested in, you know, painting and video art and tapestry making. But I think the difference is like I really enjoy the arts of marketing it, you know, and figuring out how to get somebody to listen. I think that's a very interesting element to me.
How did you figure that out? Because a lot of people, including myself, don't know what the hell we're doing in this world. Like, where did you get the clues? Especially, you seem to be very young and driven, which is amazing. I wish I had that drive at such a young age. Like, where did you figure it all out?
Oh my gosh, first of all, I'm not that young. I'm 29. I'm gonna be 30 this year. So period.
Don't-
Like
Don't even start with you're very young.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna take that as a compliment that you thought that we were closer to your age. So
yeah,
that's
I'm like
great.
you are not that can't you're probably close to my age. I'm looking at a couple like late 20s in my view. 3 late 20-year-old
That's
girlies.
so
That's what I'm
good.
saying.
You are
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Our
That is
makeup team has been nominated for many Emmys.
for a minute.
so-
No, we are. I promise you, we're not there. We're closer. We're knocking on the 40 door.
Right,
Oh,
sure.
okay, yeah. We're in the we're in another area. Yeah.
Anyway,
But I think though that I think all of us, I mean you guys included, I think in me and the younger gen, I think a lot of us grew up with the internet, at least partially. I don't remember a time before the internet. I mean, I assume we all kind of grew up with it, at least partially or entirely. And I think something that good artists do is steal, not literally, but partially. And I think to be good at like what is the job of the artist? The job of the artist is to analyze the world around us and to be able to like translate it into the visual context, right? And that's essentially what content creators are doing too. And really all it is copying and stealing what we see around us and turning it into another more digestible form. So when it comes to even you know, understanding like in video series is in the series of video projects I've done or even like in performance pieces I've done, I've just really looked at the history of video art, you know, in its entirety, and that looks at like Vito Acconci and these like iconic video art people, but also kind of looking at how is it functioning right now. Short form video, there's a really clear you know, formula there. It's like, or at least there was until recently, right? And so it's just really analyzing that like 3 seconds, it goes to like 15 seconds. This is what does well. Analyzing that, adding it to the old principles, adding something new, subverting it, and it's just like it's kind of like copying, stealing, adding a twist.
Right. I mean, one of the things when we were researching and getting information together for you in your bio, this sentence, Gen Z's top LGBTQ plus creator has revolutionized how we perceive creativity in the digital area. That is amazing. Like you have taken something, like you just said, it's a copy paste of it, right? You took something and you revolutionized it. People look at what you do and they say, wow, I can do that same thing and take it. So I just want to give you credit for that because it's hard. It's easy to get known, but it's hard to stay relevant. And you have been able to do that in such a great way. And I think inspiring other people to come behind you and do the same thing. So kudos and hats off to you, especially being in the LGBTQ plus space, because that is also very hard to maintain, especially with all the bots and the hate and everything we have. I mean, you know what trouble TikTok is in. We're going to get to that a little bit later, but again, kudos to you.
even without that, just the political environment that we are unfortunately in.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot, seriously.
So how was it going viral for the first time? Like, was your phone just like blowing up and you were like, what the hell just happened? Or were you kind of expecting it?
And did you intend to go viral?
It's interesting. I've gone viral a lot of different times for a lot of different reasons.
Oh, excuse me.
But sometimes it's more fun than other times, right? So I've been like, I think sometimes it's really fun when you plan for it. Sometimes things get taken out of context, and like when getting dragged on Twitter is humbling. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: nothing can hurt you. You know, after getting dragged on Twitter, nothing can hurt you.
Nothing can hurt you. Yeah,
nothing can hurt you.
What happened on Twitter? Do you remember like a couple of instances where you're just like, what the hell are these?
Yeah, I love this.
Trolls?
I love it because like, so I think a lot of like, I really wanted to experiment with like, I think something I'm interested in as an artist is, you know, the concept of lost personhood. Like what happens, and I think this extends beyond content creator or person or artist, but like the idea of when an image or a concept is replicated so much beyond what it originally was, it loses its personhood, especially when it's like a creator or a video of a person, right?
Right.
And that's what we see with a meme, a person that becomes a meme. Or what we see with sometimes, you know, it's why we can feel desensitized with really uh, horrible situations going on in the world, right? Or why we're able to share. I think that's what's so interesting about virality is it can really like motivate people to make serious change in the world, or it can really desensitize people, right? So I think what's interesting about that is like, what is the lived experience to have that lost personhood, right? And see it replicated so many times. So in my quest to understanding that, I had to figure out how to go viral in whatever way. Like how do I do that, right? Is it going to be a soundbite? Is it going to be a ridiculous video? One of the ways I decided to test this out was, can I make divisive content that's like inflammatory but not offensive? So I got like a mustache tattoo on my
No, I love that.
finger, and I was like, the mustache tattoo is vintage. It's like 2012 vintage. Like, it's like you know, it was just so, I like really like said it was, and it was such a parody video, like so obviously parody. I said it was like vintage millennial like aesthetic. I said it was about like non-binary identity. Like it was so over the top, like parody camp, but divisive because who's getting a mustache tattoo in like the 2020s and it has nothing to do with gender identity. So of course
Right.
that sound bite was like taken out of context and like dragged all over Twitter. And I think that idea of like the lost personhood, that was one of my first experiences where like it was taken out of context and spread out. And I think that was a really interesting moment for me because that really led into some of the most recent ideas I had with like printing stuff out or like hyper realistic stuff. And it just builds on one another. But I will say, getting dragged on Twitter for things is like, after that happens, you can do anything. You can text your dad anything, like nothing can stop you. But
So
it was good.
As a creator, you seem to me like you're very into the like tactic of test and learn. We don't know. Let's just test it and see what happens and learn from that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of brands, I'm equating you to a brand because you are, a lot of brands are very, very risk adverse. They don't want to test and learn. But I feel like in today's age, how are you going to get better and move the needle further without testing and learning? So what are some things that like you were just mentioning, one would consider that maybe from like a brand perspective a failure, however maybe not so. So what are you learning from those things that you test and learn that maybe not go the way that you had planned?
I feel like the biggest failure to me is when something doesn't cause emotion or thought. I don't make inflammatory content. Like, you can go the dark route and just make inflammatory content that's like really mean-spirited and evil. I don't do that. I see creators do that and I understand why they do, but you know, that's not the goal. But I do think that that's a win. If you make content like an art piece, that's a video piece, right? Like the trapped in a can thing that I did, like if it gets somebody to stop and like wonder, like, is this like a glitch in the media? Like, what did I just look at, right? That I think is a win, even if somebody doesn't like it. What I think is a failure maybe is when people just really like the content you do all the time. For me, this is just my opinion. When people really like, if I get into like a good flow and people are just consistently like liking everything, that's when I'm like, okay, I gotta switch it up. People are expecting this and I'm giving it to them. Is this even fine art anymore? Am I doing video art? Is this an experiment, or am I just now falling into content?
That's actually happening on the current season of Hacks. I don't know if you watch it, but not to spoil anything, but she's going through those things. But anyway, that's very interesting.
It is very interesting. You know, I was going to ask you about AI. So obviously there has been a big uptick in AI and people, especially content creators, feeling like that they're not able to fully be themselves because they don't know if what they're going to put out there is going to be manipulated. You talked a little bit about it earlier. There's this creator named Veronica, and I did not know. So they typically do like a tune thing where it's like a like their tunes, and it's like Veronica, how she acts at work, and she talks about like, oh, I'm not doing this at work, or
the stick figures.
The stick figures. Well, turns out the real Veronica came out, and she was just like,
that's not me.
That's not me. She said they have taken my audio and put it to the stick figures, and they're actually making money off of it. But I'm not making money off of that, because once you put yourself out there, people can take your stuff and do what they want to with it. So what do you think, Vita, can be done to protect the content creators who originally create the material that could then be manipulated? Do you think that's something that can be passed as a law, a rule, a copyright? What do you think can be done to protect that? Are unions starting? Yeah. How do you think that can be protected?
I mean, tech companies have for a long time had to do somewhat shady things to be innovative. You know, we've seen this forever. Yep. And I was just listening to a podcast about like how AI, you know, ultimately needs to utilize like all data to continue learning. So it already kind of has everything we've made. You know, if we make anything new, I mean, just in the privacy policy, we kind of put it out there, and it's kind of the apps already, you know. And I mean, I've put a lot of stuff on the internet, and it's been used like without my consent. It's been used for ads without my consent, and it is frustrating.
I can imagine.
I was gonna say
there's got to be a way to deal with it. I just kind of do the next thing. You can't get caught up.
Right. I don't know if there's anything like in place for anybody to like do anything.
There's not, and that's why I was referencing Hacks. Like Vita, I really recommend Hacks on HBO, because literally they're going through this.
Well, who was the housewife? Bethany was like, she's like, I want to bring forward this legislation to make reality TV stars part of a union,
right? And
people laughed or whatever and scoffed or whatever, but like, well, we need something in place to protect us.
Well, but Andy just came out with a statement and said, the people at Bravo, and Andy came out and was like, no one's forcing you to be in reality TV. You sign up, and you sign a clause that says everything we have. He said even in the contracts it says that it can be manipulated for whatever gain. He said like, you can absolutely say you can quit at any time. Housewives quit all the time. They do a one season, like, hey, this ain't for me. I thought this was something else. Kim Phil's very famous for doing so in Atlanta. Candace just did it in Potomac. Like people quit all the time. So it's just like when it comes to content creating, do you think, because I've seen a lot of content creators recently say like, we're gonna stop, we're gonna go a different route because we feel like this is getting out of our control. What are some tools that maybe you have used that other people can use to keep their content within their control? So even if it is manipulated, it can be manipulated maybe for good instead of bad.
I wish I had something to say. I wish I had like when you find out, please tell me, like if anybody comes after this and is like, I have an idea, like in your podcast know, comments or reviews or whatever. I have no idea. I just keep going.
And because you can't think about it. You can't think about it.
No, sometimes people will see my content being taken or replicated or whatever, and people will come for them. Like people that support me will come for them, which is so sweet. But you know, not necessary, honestly. Here's the thing, like, and this is in the art world too, like, you know, you do something and somebody will, you know, rip it, and then you either have an option, serve it back like ping pong style, or just keep moving. And like, you know, it pushes you to stay innovative. Maybe, I don't know, this is my mentality, like it pushes you to stay innovative. This is like me, like being like a this is my like trauma response, because I've been through it so much. I'm like, it forces me to stay innovative, I guess. But honestly, yeah, if there was a better system, you know, if there was like a union, if there was like something more democratized, I don't know, anything. But I have no suggestion other than like stay positive and keep moving.
But like, would you be open to? I'm literally making all this sense. But would you be open to, like, if a union situation were to happen? Would you be open to that? Okay.
That would be so cool. I'd love that.
Would you be open to becoming a housewife?
Yeah.
All of that. Like, put me on. Come in. So we have like a few more questions before we let you go. So your family, how have they been supportive of this journey for you? Like, not only just the journey of you being a creator, but the journey of you coming to terms with being non-binary and all that. How has your family really been supportive for you? Because I know sometimes that can be very difficult, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. I mean, so my family wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. I didn't do that. It was hard for I mean, they just want the best for their kids, you know. Yeah. They want the best. for us. I am technically like I did do pre-med track in my undergrad, so I could go to med school. No, but I couldn't go to med school. You know what I mean? But I did. But I think they just wanted to make sure that I like was gonna do something. They were concerned about it. The artist track. But when I started making money, and they love to see the numbers. They love the numbers. My dad loves to see the numbers, and when I show him like a check, he just is very excited about that. So he feels good. They were very supportive about me like being queer early on. I'm really lucky that's not the case for a lot of people. That is like such a privilege. And I didn't even really understand the significance of that privilege until later. Pronouns and stuff were hard to figure out, but then they got it. My grandma never quite understood. I'm so close with her. I do a lot of work, or sorry, she actually passed, but I did a lot of work about her in my, I do a lot of artwork about her. And then she did her best to kind of understand the queer identity by like not really acknowledging it. You know what I mean? She's from an old world. She's from the different, she's from a different universe. She's from the Middle East, and she just had a different experience with it. But she kind of was like down. She loved my partner. She like finally understood I was a lesbian, and then I started dating somebody that was AMAB, who's now like a trans woman. And then, she was like, I thought you were a lesbian. What happened? But she was like, she was down. She was down for the cause. Like shout out Vita. So she, so I think that as far as it could go, I had such a wonderful experience, which is not the case for many. But my parents fumble, but they do their best. They're allies, shout out.
Sure.
And I had a lot of role models, in a way that many people didn't. So
yeah. And it's kind of like you with content creating. It's like we try this and then it didn't work. Okay, well let's try this, avenue. And then I think, we gotta give our parents that grace to like figure out
because what I love about that is like we remember at that moment our parents are human.
Yeah.
Because first of all, there's not a book. There's books, but like there's not really a sure way on how to raise a child. There's not a sure way how to love someone. And I think that you do the best you can. And I think that parents at times you can give them grace. At a certain point you're like, hey, look, I gave you a lot of grace. But I think it's so wonderful that you were able to have that. And I really do think you're an inspiration for anyone coming behind you and the people ahead of you, because I think that the work you do is important. The things that you do is really meaningful. And I encourage you, please continue, because I love seeing them. It's just really wonderful. It warms my heart. So before we let you go, the last question we have for you, what does pride mean to you?
Oh my gosh. It means... What does pride mean to me? Wow, that is such a beautiful question. It means community, just existing, waking up and feeling like you're not even thinking about it because it's just every day. That's what it means to me.
I love that. That is amazing.
So for our listeners, obviously they can follow you, Vita, on Instagram and TikTok at Vita Kari, and see what's going on currently in your life. But what is next?
Yes, that's a good question. I haven't really talked about it anywhere else. This will be like first to know. Woo woo.
Yes,
but
give this the exclusive.
I'm gonna be like installing some like little doors that have secret worlds around LA. It will be, of course, like a fleeting project. It'll have to be like a pay attention to know where it is, because I'm bringing the gallery to the world. Galleries are too hard to have to go to all the time. Bringing it to the world. Some of it'll be digital, so it'll be like you can just follow along digitally, but it'll also be like in person. You can go see it, and they're gonna be called chrome doors, and they'll be like all over. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. I'm saying too.
And you're all based in LA, right?
No, we're in New York, but we come out to LA a lot. So when we come out to LA, first of all, we have to meet up for a brunch, because that's how we do things. And then number two, we have to do that. And then number two, we definitely would love to come and experience your gallery and all your work. Like, we have to do it in person. So
yeah, we'll look up the dates and see if we can.
Yes. Oh, and also I'm having a queer and trans art and music showcase on June 15th during Pride Month. So if you're in town for that, you should come. But if not, it's okay. But please come if you're here.
Please, and we will definitely also push it out to all of our followers that we have out in LA as well, to make sure you can get people out there, because we want to support you. We want to make sure that you continue on, because again, like I said, the work you're doing will continue on for years. So thank you so much for that.
That means so much to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Vita. Thanks for taking the time and coming on to chat with us.
Of course.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Drive safely in that traffic.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.